Hi, I'm Carl Azuz. Welcome to this presidential election edition of CNN 10. What we know, what we don't know, what we expect in the days ahead. We'll start with what we know. It's close. No landslides here in the presidential race. When we assembled this show in the overnight hours, a winner had not been declared yet. The election results hinged on 10 states: Alaska, Arizona, Georgia, Hawaii, Maine, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. In the popular vote, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden was leading Republican incumbent President Donald Trump. But it's the electoral vote that counts, the magic number of 270 of those that determine the presidency, and those results came down to the states I mentioned. They were still unknown Tuesday night. At 12:42 a.m., Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden addressed supporters at a drive-in event in Wilmington, Delaware.
Good evening. Your patience is commendable. We knew this was going to go long, but who knew we're going to go into maybe tomorrow morning, maybe even longer. But look, we feel good about where we are. We really do. I'm here to tell you tonight, we believe we're on track to win this election. We knew because of the unprecedented early vote and the mail-in vote that it was going to take a while. We're going to have to be patient until the hard work of tallying the votes is finished. And it ain't over till every vote is counted, every ballot is counted.
At 2:22 a.m., Republican incumbent President Donald Trump addressed supporters at the White House in Washington, D.C.
I want to thank the American people for their tremendous support. Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it. So I just want to thank you.
So legal challenges to election results are expected. How much will mail-in ballots factor in? What will be the new makeup of the Senate and House of Representatives? These are also questions to be answered in the days ahead. As another CNN anchor put it, this is not a 90-minute thriller. It's like a 10-part miniseries. All of this was constantly being updated as we put this show together late last night, and CNN.com will have the latest news and results concerning the 2020 U.S. presidential election.
Electoral College. It's simpler than regular college. It's actually the name of a group of people who choose the U.S. president. Why them and not just citizens through a popular vote? Well, some of the founding fathers weren't completely comfortable with a direct election by the people. They wanted to buffer or limit that. They didn't think the average American was really in tune with politics. Electors, on the other hand, are all over them.
I need your vote.
Here's how the system works. Each state gets a certain number of electoral votes. The more people who live in a state, the more electoral votes it gets. Take California, most populous state in the nation, 55 electoral votes. South Dakota, 3. Not many, but it doesn't have nearly as many residents as the Golden State. Now, every state but Maine and Nebraska has a winner-take-all election system. That means whoever wins the state's popular vote wins all of its electoral votes. What kinds of numbers are we talking? Well, there are 538 electors in the Electoral College, so you need just over half of them, 270, to win the election. But you can't just win the top 5 states with the most electoral votes. In a close contest between 2 candidates, every electoral vote counts. And here's where it gets tricky. The Electoral College is supposed to reflect what most Americans want, but it is possible for a candidate to win the popular vote and lose the Electoral College and therefore the election. Former Vice President Al Gore, for example, won the popular vote in 2000 but lost the Electoral College and the election. Same thing happened in 1876 to Samuel J. Tilden and 1888 to Grover Cleveland. Did some folks get mad at the college? But despite hundreds of proposals to change that or get rid of it, it hasn't happened, in part because it allows smaller states to still have some power in an election, and because it would take changing the U.S. Constitution.
Okay, another story making headlines today. Hurricane Eta, a very powerful Category 4 storm, made landfall in the Central American nation of Nicaragua on Tuesday. This is what it looked like as it approached the coast. Hurricane Eta was a relatively slow-moving storm that could bring the worst flooding Nicaragua had seen since Hurricane Mitch struck there in 1998. The U.S. National Hurricane Center says deadly conditions could remain in the region for days because Eta's rains could cause landslides, river flooding, and flash flooding, which can occur within a few hours of heavy rainfall. Nicaragua is the poorest nation in Central America, according to the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. It estimates almost 30% of Nicaraguans live below the poverty line. A Catholic priest who lives in the coastal city of Puerto Cabezas says some houses there are made of wood and adobe, a type of clay. He told the Reuters news agency that's the city's main weakness. Even before Hurricane Eta hit, roofs were reportedly being ripped off homes. Puerto Cabezas had lost power and its storm shelters were filled up. Besides its wind speeds of around 145 miles per hour, the storm was predicted to bring a major storm surge, a rise in seawater levels blown ashore by a hurricane. Forecasters said they could be as much as 21 feet higher than the normal tide, so their effects could be catastrophic for coastal Nicaragua and neighboring Honduras. Hurricane Eta is the 28th named storm of this year's Atlantic hurricane season. That ties the record set in 2005. Weather agencies counted 27 storms that year, but the National Hurricane Center decided that after the 2005 season was over, there was a 28th storm that should have been named but wasn't. So this officially ties the 28 storms named in 2005. 10-second trivia. Which of these World Heritage Sites was built the most recently? Machu Picchu, Great Wall of China, Chichen Itza, or Notre Dame Cathedral? Dating to the 15th century, Machu Picchu is the youngest site on this list.
Esto va a ser un retorno progresivo, es decir, va a ser poco a poco. Primero los locales, ¿no? Luego los nacionales y a un futuro ya el receptivo.
At first, this looks like a supercar with a giant wing on the back. But this wing flies, baby, along with the other ones that unfold from this flying car. It's a prototype, the 5th generation air car designed by a professor in Slovakia, but it has completed its maiden flight, reaching an altitude of 1,500 feet. The price? We don't know yet, but based on what we've seen from other flying car prototypes, they are much more than the average house. And it's hard to scale something so upscale, to bring the car to market, then to market the car. You hope it takes off in the air and it sails. If it ain't clear for takeoff, you won't get very far. If it gets off the ground, up and down around town, it's a pretty fly way to elevate a commute. A runaway success will be found for the buyer with the loot and the lofty attitude. We are all out of gas. I want to give a shout out to our viewers at the Punahou School in the Aloha State. It's great to see you guys in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm Carl Azus for CNN.